Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellbite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. We're back at it again with the Legends of Runeterra. It's a lazy Sunday, but we're not being lazy here. We are going full tryhard today with the Azirelia deck, which is one of the newer ones that just came out alongside Irelia, and introduces what I think is one of the best mechanics this game has ever seen in terms of power level. I'm not going to say in terms of design, but this is Azirelia. The whole point of this deck is to go in with as many 1/1s as possible, get as many free attacks off as possible, wear your opponent's life total down, wear their units down, and eventually be able to crash in with some really big units generated by the fact that you're playing so many units in a turn that they get pumped up by their own effects. This is, I think, the slightly weaker version of this deck. I do think that the MF Irelia deck is technically stronger because of how good MF is and how strongly she can end a game, but I like this deck. This is going to include a lot of the sort of cards that came out in this new set, so I felt like I wanted to play this version of it instead of the MF Irelia. If you guys want to see that deck, though, let me know. I do have, I think, all the components to make that deck at this point now, so like I said, just let me know down in the comments if you guys want to see that. But either way, let's go ahead and hop into the card by card on the Azirelia deck. Up here at the 1 mana mark, we've got 3 copies of Dancing Droplet. Now, this card is crazy good. I know this is a wannabe flubber looking card, but he's actually incredible. Now, for 1 mana, you're getting a 1/1 elusive that is also attuning you 1. This means that when you play him, you don't have to worry about not banking that spell mana. You're going to get it regardless. And as a 1/1 elusive, he's able to chip in for some early damage. Elusive also means that if you need an attack trigger, you can attack with Dancing Droplet, who likely won't be able to be blocked, and then you get all of your Sand Soldier summoning off of things like Azir or Sandcrafter. So a lot of utility you got here, but on top of all of that, when he's recalled, you draw 1. So not only will you be able to save this card to then replay and attune again later, but you're also going to get a card out of the deal. So across the board, I think this card is crazy good, and you can expect to see this in a lot of Ionia decks in the future. I think he's really, really solid. 3 copies of Dunekeeper. We've seen him before in the Azir deck. He counts twice towards Azir's level up condition, and of course he does some of that Sand Soldier, so I do really like the card, and especially it's good for Irelia, as you will likely be turning both of these sideways the turn he comes down, because there's no reason to not swing with the Sand Soldier. It's ephemeral, and the Dunekeeper himself is just kind of there to die, and that therefore counts twice for Irelia, so a good card to have for this deck. 2 copies of Emperor's Dais. I am not running this at 3 because I do feel like this deck can summon so many units on occasion that running it at more copies would just kind of clog your board and make it so that you have a lot of landmarks that aren't able to defend you or help you develop anymore. But it is a very solid card, as whenever allies attack, you summon an attacking Sand Soldier. This means every single time you Blade Dance, you'll get an extra Sand Soldier attacking on top of that. If you have Azir down as well, he'll summon another Sand Soldier whenever you attack. A lot of good things you can do with this card, so definitely do want to be seeing this at the 2 mana mark if I can. 3 copies of Greenglade Duo. Now, this is hilariously one of the win conditions of this deck as Greenglade Duo. People already know the power of this card. Summon a ton of units and Greenglade Duo starts crashing in for a ton of elusive damage, but this deck essentially does the exact same thing. Every time you Blade Dance, the blades you summon, the Sand Soldiers you summon, they all contribute to Greenglade Duo getting huge. If Duo attacks and summons an attacking Sand Soldier off of something like Emperor's Dais, she gets even bigger on top of that, and that elusive, it just means that essentially you're never going to be able to block this unit, so it is not infrequent for this card to crash in for 5 or 6 damage a turn if she's not answered. Now, obviously, at 1 health, anything kills Greenglade Duo, but if your opponent doesn't have an answer for her, she very quickly will end the game. 3 copies of Lead and Follow here. This is a really good new card that was introduced by recalling an ally. You create a Flawless Duet in hand. The Flawless Duet is a 1 mana slow spell that Blade Dances 2. Now, the 2 is important because Blade Dance 1 is sort of whatever. I'll take the 1 damage or I'll block the 1 blade. 2, though, is sort of your opponent has to start making decisions as to how much damage they actually want their units to take versus how much damage they want their Nexus to take. Some fun things you can do there. Lead and Follow also allows you to save a unit like Greenglade Duo or potentially your champions if they are in a bad block or if they're being targeted by removal. You can kind of get them out of dodge and then also have that Flawless Duet in hand then to fill out the board and get some more damage off. So a good card all around. I really do like where this is at. 3 copies of Ribbon Dancer. This is a 2/1 that Blade Dances 1. Now, if you're not familiar with what Blade Dance does, it summons an attacking blade as the card comes down. Now, the blades are 1/1s. They obliterate when they come out of combat, so you'll never be able to hold on to them, but it's just a free attack that you get because it doesn't use the attack token. The blades come into play attacking. So, Ribbon Dancer comes down, Blade Dances 1, and then can swing in herself. I think she's pretty good. She's a good target for Lead and Follow, as then you can replay her for more Blade Dancing, and then play the Flawless Duet for more Blade Dancing, and just keep hitting your opponent with a ton of blades. So, a lot of fun things you can do with her. A single copy here of Syncopation. This is a card I'm not sure about, so I'm only running it at 1. I feel like on some situations it's going to be a dead draw where there are no units for you to swap, or there are no good units for you to swap, but there are some situations I can see where, for example, you have a big Azir sitting on your back row while you go to town with Blade Dancing. Your opponent blocks one of the blades, let's say, and nothing else. You can then Syncopate, swap out a blade for the Azir, who's huge and now not blocked, and then crash in for a ton of damage. Or swap a bunch of units around, so if you do have, you know, a couple of units swinging and you want to swap the order in which they're being blocked, you can totally do that with Syncopation. Like I said, it may be a dead draw in some situations, but I think it's solid enough that I want to try it and see how it goes. 3 copies of Azir. Now, funnily enough, I know we already played him in the Ascended deck, but this is the deck meant for Azir due to his flip effect. You're gonna flip the Azir in this deck, almost guaranteed, and when you summon an ally, you give both of them +1/+0 this round. This means that your Blades and Sand Soldiers both are coming in as 2/1s. Azir himself can pump up to, again, like 5 or 6 power in a single turn because of how many units you're going to be playing, and Azir is just going to be able to start crashing in for a ton of damage, on top of still summoning a Sand Soldier whenever you attack. So every time you Blade Dance, you get an extra Sand Soldier on top of that as long as Azir is on the table. He's a very solid unit, he can take a lot of damage before dying, and he's one of the win conditions of the deck, so definitely going to be running him at 3. 2 copies of Flurry of Fists. This is a weird one. This may be a card I cut at some point because I'm not sure how good it actually is in this deck specifically. I think I put it in because I saw the Irelia synergies and was like, oh, okay, yeah, that totally works, but I'm not sure about it. I think the indication was that because I have so many units that are fairly high power, low toughness, that by granting an ally quick attack at burst speed, all of a sudden they're able to kill the thing that my opponent was expecting to trade out with it, and now that ally has quick attack permanently, so there are some fun things you can do with that there. If it already has it, you can give it double attack, so drawing multiple Flurry of Fists isn't a waste because you can start giving things double attack. Obviously, Irelia already has quick attack, so you can give her double attack instead. There are some kind of fun things you can do. Again, I'm not sure. This may be a card I cut midway through this episode, but we'll find out. 3 copies of Irelia, one of the newer champions introduced alongside this set. When she's summoned or round start, if you have the attack token, you create a Flawless Duet in hand. We've already talked about that. And then, of course, when she flips, she creates a Blade Surge in hand, which is a 0-cost burst speed that swaps Irelia with an ally. This means that Irelia doesn't even need to attack. You can Blade Surge. If your opponent doesn't block the blades, then you can Blade Surge Irelia in for one of the blades. If you have then the Syncopation, you can swap her around yet again, and it's really hard for your opponent to ever pin her down. The biggest reason I like her is because of the Flawless Duet she creates every time you have the attack token. A lot of fun things you can do with that and just constantly hit your opponent with blades, summoning more Sand Soldiers, yada yada. You kind of get how this is going to work. It's going to be death by 1,000 cuts. 3 copies of Blossoming Blade. I do like this unit better than Ribbon Dancer because she Blade Dances 2 when she comes down, and she's a beefier body on top of that. She's a much better target for something like Lead and Follow or Homecoming potentially, because putting her back in your hand allows you to replay her, get the Blade Dance back off. A lot of fun things you can do with this card, so that's why she's here. 2 copies of Coastal Defender. This is a fun defensive card if I absolutely need a big body to protect my life, especially if I'm not really curving out very well and my opponent is. But the biggest thing is he has the Azir effect, but for himself, and at +2/+0 instead of +1/+0, which allows you to Blade Dance multiple times in a turn, really ramp up your Coastal Defender, and then swing in with him, and your opponent is just sort of losing a unit to him, or losing a ton of life to him if they choose not to block. So a lot of really good things he does with the deck, and a lot of good synergies he has. 2 copies of Homecoming. Now, this is a crazy good card, honestly. The cost on Homecoming is that you recall an ally unit or landmark and then recall an enemy unit or landmark. But in this deck, recalling an ally is almost never a problem. You want to recall things like Blossoming Blade and Ribbon Dancer in order to play them again, to Blade Dance again. If you recall a champion who's either low on health or being targeted by removal to save them. And on top of that, you're able to then recall an enemy unit or landmark, resetting Buried Sundisks, getting Scar Grounds off the table, or just recalling a big enemy unit who has a bunch of buffs on them to reset them. A lot of fun things this card does, and with landmarks being a more prevalent part of the metagame, you definitely want landmark removal of some form in your deck, and that's why Homecoming is going to be here. So a good solid card all around. This is probably a card that would go up to 3 copies if I did choose to cut the Flurry of Fists. 2 copies of Sandcrafter. This is a solid card. We've talked about her before. When she attacks, you summon an attacking Sand Soldier. If you have the Azir out, then you're going to get 2 attacking Sand Soldiers. And again, she just kind of synergizes well with a lot of the things the deck wants to do. Honestly, I would be nicer if she was sort of a mini Azir, which she's not. But either way, it gives you more ability to go to town on your opponent. And she does contribute twice towards the Irelia flip. 3 copies of Inspiring Marshal. Now, this is a crazy good card. This is the deck that this card was always designed for, and I'm so happy to be able to play her in this deck at 3 copies. Somehow I pulled enough copies during Empires of the Ascended to have the playset. But when you summon another ally, you give it +2/+0. That means that your Blades and Sand Soldiers are coming down as 3/1s. If you have the Azir out, they're coming down as 4/1s. And all of a sudden, your opponent is losing their board just trying to not die to the free attacks you're generating. Inspiring Marshal is the card that takes this deck from sort of a mediocre, okay, yeah, I see what you're going for, into an actual threat. And Marshal will almost always eat a removal spell as soon as she comes down because people know this about her. So still love her, still want to see her, and if your opponent can't answer her, she will definitely carry the game for you. Finally, getting to my last two cards here, we have a copy of Vanguard's Edge. This allows you to get a free attack off with an ally, plus a Blade Dance 3, which is the highest Blade Dance we have in the game right now. So it allows you to, again, summon a bunch of units, pump up your Azir, get a free attack, maybe with the Azir or with the Irelia, and just do a lot of fun things there. And one copy of Zinneia, Steel Crescendo. This is a card I haven't cashed out for because, again, I'm trying to save some of my wild cards for the future. But in 3/5 elusive, when you Blade Dance, she always attacks with the Blades, which allows you to kind of win con with her because if you're able to Blade Dance multiple times in a turn, Zinneia will attack every single time, and at a 3/5 elusive, your opponent is going to have difficulties actually blocking her, and when you play her, she Blade Dances once, so she'll immediately go to combat on that round, Blade Dancing, and then be able to go back in on the same turn, so really solid card all around, and I would probably run at least another copy of her if I actually had the wild cards to spare. But anyways, that's the deck, guys. Like I said, it's a pretty simple deck. I think it does a lot of really good things. It plays a lot of new stuff. So I know a lot of people are like main decking answers to this deck specifically, and it's not as good as it was when I first saw it come out, but we'll kind of see how it goes. So either way, I'm going to hop into the queue here, see if we can get some games, and see if we can get some wins. And here we go, guys. Going to be playing against Nikitsu, who's playing their Nasus Kindred Slay deck. This is a very meta deck, unfortunately, and it's the kind of deck that will definitely benefit from me having a lot of small units to kill. This is a really bad hand. I think all the cards I was a little iffy on were in that hand, so we're going to mulligan away all of them, except the Ribbon Dancer, and hope for something slightly better, and it actually got worse, but hey, what can you do? We did actually top deck the Dancing Droplet, so I do love that, so we'll play that out. Go ahead and get that attuned for free. My opponent shouldn't be able to do much, but he does have the Dunekeeper, actually, so he knows he can go in for an attack for free because I'm not going to block with the Droplet, so I'm just taking 4 off of that. That feels pretty bad, but hey, nothing I can do about it, so can't think too much. And here we go on to the next attack. We do have the Emperor's Dais, but I think what I want to do is go in with the Ribbon Dancer instead, get that free Blade Dance, see if he wants to trade, which he probably won't. The biggest thing with the Blades, unlike Sand Soldiers, is they only ever do 1 damage, so Sand Soldiers are really kind of better. Unfortunately, he did have the Vile Feast, which I thought about, and I was like, okay, it's probably not that big of a deal if he does go for it, but unfortunately he did have it there and he's willing to play it, so either way, nothing we can do about it. We do have the Greenglade Duo. I do quite like that, so I think what we probably want to do is play this a little safe on this round and just go for the Emperor's Dais, and then bring out the Greenglade Duo on the next round. He's going to be going in, and honestly, I just think I want to take this damage. We want to try and preserve what we have on the board in case of a bigger attack coming later. On to 4 mana. We do actually have the Dunekeeper, which is a really good top deck, so here we go. Greenglade Duo is going to come out, see if he's got a removal spell. I do have the mana for Homecoming if he tries it. Instead, he's going to go for the Cursed Keeper, which almost certainly means he has a way of killing it right now, but I can't stop that, so we will Dunekeeper out. That's going to count twice for the Greenglade Duo. And it also means then that I can go to combat here, and then I'll summon a Sand Soldier, which will make Greenglade Duo even bigger. Like I said, this card is really good, and we'll have to see if he actually has a way of dealing with her. He may be scared of the Nopify, but I'm not running it, so either way, we're going to get in for some damage, and he's sort of starting to have to block out here because he knows he's going to take a ton of damage. That was 1 attack, and all of a sudden he's down to the same life total as I am after he worked me down there over a couple of turns. So you kind of see the amount of pressure this deck can put out. And he does have the Kindred, which means he almost certainly has a way of killing something, which will allow the Kindred to trigger their effect. I don't want to play the Dancing Droplet right here because of... Actually, there's almost nothing good I can play here, except the Sandcrafter, because I still have mana for Homecoming. So we'll play the Sandcrafter. That's a good unit to just have on the board for the next turn, potentially going for an open attack, summoning a couple of Sand Soldiers, pumping up the Greenglade Duo. He's going to go in, and I just don't want to block, because if anything dies, the Kindred will then try to kill one of my units. So I'm alright with taking the damage there. It's like, it's not fine, but it's kind of fine. So either way, I think what we want to do here is go for the Blossoming Blade, get the free Blade Dancing, which summons an additional Sand Soldier, because we're just going to try and pump up Greenglade Duo big enough to just kind of kill him in 1 hit here. So we'll see if that's even remotely possible. Okay, he is going to get his Slay proc, unless I could troll him with Flurry of Fists, which would be kind of funny. Yeah, because now he counts as the Slay, but that unit actually obliterates. So that completely countered Kindred. And it's only the first time. So now I'm home free. It doesn't matter if anything dies after this point because the Kindred have actually already gotten their ability. We don't actually want to swing with them because Kindred can block them for free. So either way, we'll go in, we'll summon more Sand Soldiers. The Greenglade Duo is now an 8-power card. Yeah, and at this point, he's kind of having to consider what he actually can block with. He does have quite a few blocks here to keep him alive. And is going to go for the Black Spear. So this is where Homecoming comes in. I am going to... I can't play the Flurry of Fists at the same time, so we will recall the Kindred. Force him to replay that. He's got another card in hand. It's the Rite of Negation. Okay, so he is still going to get my Greenglade Duo, which is pretty sad. And now I don't have the mana to kill the Kindred either with Flurry of Fists. That's pretty disappointing, and that's a big play for him. Keeps him in the game, and now he's in a pretty strong place. Well, we're actually about same on board, about the same in hand. So we're going to go ahead and do this for my Dancing Droplet, get that attune back. Give me a little bit more options. It's going to depend on what I actually draw here. Another Dais is pretty bad, and I don't like that. The biggest issue I have here is trying to... Oh, there's the Nasus. Okay, the game is probably over. I don't think I have a way to live Nasus swinging in and then Kindred guaranteed killing something on my turn. Yeah, so I have to block here. It's my only block. I cannot take the Nasus damage. Nasus is going to flip here as well, which completely counters my deck because he's going to give everything on my field -1, -0, which means by default, my Blades and my Soldiers can't do any damage. So, actually, the game is probably over here. We'll see what my top deck is, but I don't actually think I have anything that wins me the game. Azir kind of helps, but he doesn't help enough. Okay, well, Emperor's Dais. Because Azir at least will be able to pump up my units because he will flip. So he will, when I summon the units, make them big enough to do damage, but the situation, I think, is still over because even if I swing with Azir, I summon 2 Sand Soldiers, Azir only gets +2/+0, he's got the Atrocity. Yep. Actually one of my least favorite cards in the game because of how reliable it is with Nasus to just end the game. Nasus can become huge and Atrocity just, you throw 15 damage at the dome, there's nothing you can do about that. So, hate that card, but I think we had already lost that game regardless. I don't think I had a way out of the hole once the Nasus got the flip. So, either way, disappointing, but we're going to go into the next game and see if we can't get a win. And here we are back at it again against Style XS, who's playing a Noxus Shurima deck, which this is going to be something weird. I don't know exactly what it is. I think I will get rid of the Homecoming here because I don't have anything that synergizes with right off the bat. Sort of an interesting, especially he's going 1 champion, and that almost always indicates jank or something that's like really kind of crazy. So we'll see what he wants to come down with turn 1. It will be the Bakai Reaper, which I don't have a block for it regardless, so we'll just come down with the Dancing Droplet. He's going to hit me for 1, but I'll hit him for 1 right back on the next turn, so I don't really care too much. And actually, I almost don't want to play the Emperor's Dais because that will pump up the Bakai. But either way, we'll Emperor's Dais. I think it's fine to just get it down now. I'm not that worried. He actually does not have the Vile Feast. He's not Shadow Isles, so Dancing Droplet gets to go in for free, summon a Sand Soldier up, and he'll just take the damage. And it looks like he is probably playing some degree of fast aggressive strategy, which makes sense. It's Noxus. That's kind of Noxus' whole shtick. He's got the Dunekeeper, so we will come down with a Dunekeeper of our own in order to just give us enough blocks to kind of stay alive here. And Battlecaster. That's a good one to have. So we'll Blade Dancer out. We're going to be able to get in for some damage, and he's just taking it all because this is going to be a race between me and him. So how I block, I will absolutely have to kill the Battlecaster. He has to die because, yeah, you see how much this is about to do. So we're going to block out like so. We're going to take 3, 5, probably more because of Bakai Reaper getting pumped up from everything else dying, but I actually can't even block it. I think we do have to trade out with the Droplet here too, which, yeah, this is a bit of a bad situation for me, so We're going to take a bunch. The Bakai Reaper is massive. And we're down to 10. It's round 3. I see where this deck is going for. That's pretty crazy good, but we can come down with the Irelia at least. Well, we've got that Flawless Duet in hand. See what he wants to do. So we can Flawless Duet, get Sand Soldiers, then swing with Irelia, get Sand Soldiers. He's got the Azir, so because he knows he's summoning a ton of units, so that's going to give him a lot of value. In come the Sand Soldiers, in come the Blades. He's taken all of it. That totally makes sense. And we can't actually go in with the Irelia because Azir can't kill her, and she kills the Bakai. Yeah, so again, he's just taking all of the damage all the way. He knows this game is not going to go very long, and the only important thing is if my life total hits 0 before his. He's on 6 mana. Iron Ballista for the Overwhelm. That's a pretty good one to have. I think what I want to do is Blossoming Blade. Bring out all the soldiers. That actually gives me the Irelia flip. I was not paying attention, but very nicely animated as well. They've really improved the flip animations with every... And he's going to give up there. He knows I've got too much pressure by this point. I will be able to block his Ballista and his Bakai Reaper. An interesting strategy he was playing there. I'm actually kind of digging it. I see what he was going for. I do think he probably wants to run another champion, maybe the Darius, as just sort of a way to end the game. You're so aggressive, you can get your opponent down low enough for the Darius flip to come through. But I'm happy the deck kind of worked out. We put enough pressure back on him that it was a race instead of me just getting, you know, completely obliterated by his early game pressure. So good to see the deck kind of sort of working there, and we're going to go ahead and hop into a third game. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, against Confused Pie, who's playing a Braum Soraka Freljord Targon deck. It's definitely going to be running Starspring as the win condition, and it's going to be a very good deck against my deck because of the constant healing, keeping his units from getting worn down by the Blades. Braum with Regeneration just kind of eats Blades for breakfast all day, every day, and doesn't care. So really good counter strategy, and that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, Blade Dance is so good and so prevalent that a lot of people are either main decking answers to it or just playing decks that have good matchups into it. So either way, though, we are getting the full right off the bat, which I do quite like. Now, of course, he's playing a heal deck, so he'll probably be able to heal it off. Keep the pressure on here with the Blade Dancer. Go in for the Blade Dance. A Ribbon Dancer, I should have said, but either way, he's got the Solari Sunhawk, which he chose to not play. He's going to get a stun, but it doesn't really matter. I wasn't going to block him regardless. Kind of weird that he chose not to play anything, and then after I played a unit, he was going to go for the Sunhawk, but maybe he was expecting some degree of removal. Now, here's where we're going to try and gotcha him. So we're just going to go in, and then we'll Flurry of Fists. And see if he's got anything. He could Hush, which would be kind of sad, but we'll see if this works. Maybe this is the game that means I like Flurry of Fists. He's got an Ice Shard. Okay, that's a pretty good card to have there. That's a card that a lot of people are main decking now because of how good it is into Blades, and into this deck in particular. Like I said, a ton of people are playing Answers because this deck, if you can't answer this deck will run you over. He doesn't want to attack. I'm just going to pass it back. I don't even care about developing. That's fine. I'll bank most of that spell mana. Okay, so we can bring out the Azir here. He shouldn't have any answer to the Azir. And then we can Greenglade Duo off the back. Swing into the Greenglade, summon a Sand Soldier, start making progress on Azir. There's Soraka. He could Hush the Greenglade Duo, but I do have Syncopation to save her in the chance that he is able to Hush as she goes in. So we attack, we summon in the Sand Soldier. There's no reason to go in with Azir here. I want to keep his health total high. Yeah, and I'm okay with this. We're going to get him down to 11. We're going to get a little bit more damage on the Sunhawk if he does choose to go for another... Ah, there's the Star Spring. Okay. So yeah, so he will get that healing going. He does have his win condition online. And this is where the game is going to start getting tough for me. He's just going to go to combat. Oh, because he wants to heal up the Solari Sunhawk. I'm okay with taking this damage. I'm not likely to die to health damage. I'm more likely to die to Star Spring. So... bring in the Inspiring Marshal. And he's gonna Avalanche. This will kill my Greenglade Duo, and there's nothing I can do about it. I'm happy I didn't play the Irelia now, because she would have just died to that. Now on my next turn, I can Coastal Defenders into Irelia, and just try to swing in for as much damage as I can on that turn, because I don't know how much longer I'll be able to survive. He's sitting on a ton of answers in his hand. He's gotta be. He's in Targon Freljord, so he's gonna be main decking Frostbite. He's gonna be main decking Hush. That's the Soraka flip, so now he's going to be able to dig through his deck much quicker to get answers because of Soraka's flip effect. So I am in a bit of a pickle for sure. A second Inspiring Marshal, but I'm not going to bother playing her out. Either way, we're going to come down to the Coastal Defenders. His deck shouldn't be very proactive in its removal. It should be very reactive. So I do have the option of sort of building up here and getting into a situation where it'll be difficult for him to actually stop me. But we'll see. He could be main decking Icequake, which would kill Azir. Unfortunate, but there's nothing I can do about it. It would also do a lot to blunt my initial offensive. So come down with the Irelia as well. She's going to get pumped up, making me the Flawless Duet. Coastal Defenders pumps up, Azir flips. That's a pretty valuable play there. This also makes Azir big enough to survive a potential Icequake, so I am a fan of that. And we may actually have the combo online here for you guys, assuming he doesn't just clear the board. He does have the ability to kind of go for that, but again, we're kind of waiting and seeing what he wants to do, if he has any answers. He's kind of doing the math himself, I gotta think. And he has nothing, so we'll Flawless Duet. Because we'll summon more units, pump up Coastal Defenders even bigger. Which, again, this all could be answered if he has a single Hush. So Blade Dance out, summon a Sand Soldier. They're all huge. This is lethal if he doesn't block at all. So he has to do something. Ice Shard. No, he doesn't have an Ice Shard. No, he does have the Ice Shard. Okay, so he wanted to make sure I had no way of dealing with him, but here's what we're going to do. So we're going to swap these two, and now he's taking 12. Did we get it? He's thinking about it. If he's got the Hush, I'm pretty sad. Okay, 3 Sisters for the Flash Frost. That's big. He definitely needed that, because otherwise he would have just died. So either way, I'm happy we got that. So everyone's taking a bunch of damage. He's killing all of my blades. But that's fine, because we can just go right back to combat. He's only got 3 mana left. And the Irelia is now flipping, so she should create the Blade Surge in hand, I believe. Which, if I have the Blade Surge, then I do have the ability to swap her around. No, she doesn't, because she's not, Okay, this is still lethal. So, does he have another Flash Frost? Does he have a Hush? I'm, like, waiting for the shoe to drop here, right? Because he's not just conceding. Okay, Troll Chant. So he's going to make Soraka big enough to survive Azir, take a little less damage. I think he's living with 1 health. 1 health, yeah, okay. So he barely is getting through that. But barely is still survival, so that's pretty sad for me. And again, he's just going to keep the hand advantage. I played out a ton of cards. I was hoping for Zinneia there. That would have been really nice to curve into. Okay, he is going to surrender. He doesn't have any way of building up a big enough board. It looked like he had a lot of spot removal, but not a lot of ability to permanently deal with things. So, hey, Syncopation coming through clutch. I mean, that was a big tempo swing. It forced him to play somewhat inefficiently. Like, there's a reason I think 3 Sisters isn't as good as people are making it out to be, because, yeah, you know, it gives you whichever tool you need for the job, but you're paying a mana tax on top of that, so you're just losing more mana than you're gaining from that. So either way, I'm happy we pulled it out. That was definitely an anti-meta deck that we were able to beat there with the deck it's supposed to counter. So super excited to see that happen, and that's going to be it today, guys. I hope you enjoyed Azirelia. I didn't win a lot of games with this in testing, so I'm happy that we were able to at least go 2 for 3 in today's game. So anyways, let me know what you think of this deck down in the comments below, or if you think that there are some things I should swap around, let me know. I'm still kind of playing with this deck, so if you have any options or suggestions, let me know. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. If you enjoyed the video today, go ahead and leave a like, and if you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload Legends of Runeterra content every Sunday, and regularly League of Legends content through the rest of the week, so definitely subscribe if you are interested. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I'll talk to you all later.